It is the Movement Boss Podcast. I am Joe Aguirre along with the Movement Boss herself, Karin Ravalese. Karin, what is going on?
Not much, Joe. What's going on with you? How you doing tonight?
Oh, I am doing fantastic. You and I were just talking about, what is that thing called? The gripper thing?
Oh, the dynamometer.
Dynamometer. So,
That
right,
was
I don't know if you've ever seen one of these things, but it tests your grip, right? So you got to like squeeze it. And I said to Karin, I think for most people, right, if you were to be handed one of those things, you would immediately assume that you're going to crush it with your amazing grip. And what I've seen of the people that have used it is most people are like, oh my God, they don't realize. How do people not realize that their grip is going? You know, again, one of the first things you helped me with was a friend of mine, my buddy Dan Merdzik, who I suspected was having some issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a very traditional fella, and he lost his bat swinging a couple of times. Bat went flying, and he hates that. So for him to do it, I said to Karin, I go, my buddy seems like he's having some kind of issue where like the bat's flying out of his hand, and he would never do that
unless he could.
Yeah,
unless
he couldn't help him. Yeah.
Yep.
And you know, it was funny because I hadn't even like run it by him. I wasn't like, hey Dan, I got a friend who I want to talk to about your problem. I had observed this, a really, really good friend of mine. And right. I mean, we went and saw him a few days later, right? You come out to the wiffle ball field and come to find out this guy can't open up the mayonnaise
Or pasta jar. I think that's what he said.
Whatever it was. He was losing a grip and right, but I guess for him it was up in the neck area, right?
Yep, it was in the neck area.
And that was just running down, and eventually he's losing all of that. What's going on there, Karin? From here to my hands that I'm losing grip. What exactly is things are wrapped around, or what's going on?
Well,
let's use Dan as the example. Pretend I'm Dan.
Okay. Well, based off of where Dan's grip findings were, he had an area like in the neck that was kind of throwing things off for him. So that is why he was losing the grip, losing the bat. Because when he was coming down, that's when he started losing it. Because remember, what started the conversation with you and I was me asking you about your grip. And then you're like, oh, come to think about it. But it was in a different position than Dan. So that kind of gave me a little bit of an indication of where I could ask you some more questions afterwards. Like, hey, do you have any, other
for anybody
things?
who doesn't know, right? So I met Karin. We're in a networking group together, and we were having a meeting and talking about some things. And just a couple of days earlier, I had swung at a really bad pitch in a game of wiffle ball, like high level wiffle ball. And I swung, and I didn't have it. Grip wasn't my problem. But as I tried to swing at a pitch out of the strike zone, I brought my hand up higher than I normally would to swing. And as my hand kind of came over the top, I got a shooting pain in my shoulder. And I was 2 days away from my next doubleheader. And I happened to be talking to Karin. And I mentioned to her about my injury. And yeah, you did. You asked about grip, but I said, no, my grip was good. That was almost I probably should have let the bat go. That might have been more useful in that thing. But yeah, and then as we were talking about that, it did. It's funny when you talk to Karin, and I find this to be true with a lot of people, and I think you'll find this to be true as well. The more we talk about things, the more light bulbs go off for me.
It's true. And, the thing is, too, is like I just have my feelers up about this stuff. So that's why I'll ask questions. And a lot of times people don't even really realize it. But some people do. They're like, you know what? Come to think about it. I do. Like, I feel like I don't feel as strong when I'm in this position. I had experience with that yesterday with someone. I
Yep.
did talk about that with them, and they were complaining about their shoulder. Actually, they had some imaging done where because they wanted to make sure something wasn't wrong because they were having shoulder pain. And they did have a rotator cuff tear, but that wasn't really what was driving, the issue for them, even though it showed up on the imaging. And based off of the grip, I did do the grip test on this person, a muscle test, and I had the dynamometer with me. And there was a discrepancy from side to side in their grip in a certain position. And so, like, for somebody to see that, they're like, oh my God, you don't realize it until you see it live. And then, seeing other people, then other people come out of their woodwork. They're like, oh, yeah, you know what? I know my grip's not the greatest either. Do you mind if I try that? So that where I was yesterday at the mindfulness studio for their open house, that dynamometer was a huge hit for some reason. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to like bring this thing with me everywhere I go.
I'm telling you, a handheld device.
It's like my new best friend.
Do I care? Take this. Yes. It's interesting too, because, your grip here might be solid. And then you go up here and all of a sudden you're like, oh, golly, not squeezing it like I was before.
Mhm.
Kind of, can you talk us through that? Like, what's going on there and why, and I remember that being the case with me, was we had some issues up here and we did
Mhm.
some strengthening exercises. But again, like, sort of talk us through that. What do you think I was or what was leading to that? Where am I losing grip? Again, here was great.
Mhm.
Here was terrible.
Well, you actually had the collarbone kind of pushing down. Remember, I had mentioned the brachial plexus, which is like a big web of nerves that innervate your whole upper extremity. So if you're in an area, it goes under the collarbone, like it's in between the collarbone and the first rib. So your collarbone was actually kind of pushing down on it. So it wasn't able to lift off of this brachial plexus. So that's why you were losing, your grip, because you basically didn't have the neurology, for your shoulder, for your elbow, arm, any of that stuff. So you're going to lose your grip. You're not going to feel as strong in a position. And the person, might just feel a perceived weakness in their arm. They might be able to, hey, I feel like I can't press as good as I usually do, things like that. And even with you, when we just had you hold a simple weight in your hand from side to side, and you're like, oh, I do feel a difference from side to side. So, and I think people do notice this about themselves. I mean, they're maybe not checking their grip, but they might notice that one hand doesn't feel as strong as another hand. So, that's just something to just kind of talk about in like different questions I'm going to ask somebody, because I want to try to get to like how I can help them.
I think a lot of people chalk that up too, especially right. If I'm like, my left grip's not as strong as my right. Well, I'm a righty, so that's that, and it's like, there might be something wrong here other than, yeah, sure, you're a little weaker on your non-dominant side, but that could also mean that there's structural issues.
And that's funny that you say that, because the person that I was talking to yesterday, they're right-handed and their grip was much weaker on their right side. So the person had even said that to me. They're like, oh my God, that's my freaking strong. That's my strong arm.
Supposed to be, right? It's shocking to find out those things. Again, just fascinating how you can look at a situation or see where somebody's pain is, and then again, just sort of be able to figure out, that's amazing that you can. I mean, I know it comes with studying and learning and understanding things, but it's really impressive to see, like, again, for you to like to the first time we met, she like literally was on Zoom. We were on a Zoom. I was in pain. And by the time the Zoom call was over, I was like, oh my God, I don't even know what just happened. This is amazing.
Well, see, things like that are lucky stuff, because it's not like it's a big issue. It's not like it was an ongoing chronic thing for you, But to be able to give the person some relief based off of, just asking you some questions and just kind of like understanding like the anatomy and how how it is functionally involved and what it was you were doing. That was what gave me, some indication of where to kind of focus on you and ask you some additional questions. Just kind of have you feel, let me know, hey, do you notice one side's more tighter than the other? Do you feel restricted on one side over the other? With some other questions. And so, just really asking really good questions and just really trying to understand, the functionality of what the hell's going on. It
You just made me think of something else totally random, but also kind of related. And I was watching a video testimonial earlier today about you, and this young lady was talking about the diaphragm and the breathing in the diaphragm. Another one of the things that Karin and I came up with, I have figured out. And again, it was one of those like, oh my God, wait a minute. Do you know what I do? I tend to hold my breath while I'm working out.
A lot of people do, Joe. And the diaphragm, the thoracic diaphragm, is like a big compensator for a lot of people. I mean, it is, and we talk about that in the coursework that I take and stuff that I've taken. That's one of the things that will throw things off. If your body doesn't feel safe, diaphragm's going to kind of kick in for you. So it can be common. It's common. It's not for everybody. It doesn't happen to everybody, but it does.
How come we don't know this stuff?
Maybe because there's no interest in learning about it, or
I think there is interest. I think it's like it's like your taxes. Why don't they teach you how to do your taxes when you're in high school? I just feel like there's so much of the anatomy, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention in those classes.
I think it's taught differently.
But I mean, right?
I'm just very fortunate that I've learned from somebody that is really, that's her thing. And, so that's what I credit it to. But I mean, I don't think they're really doing that kind of deep dive like that.
You would
schools,
just think,
but I don't,
again,
I don't know.
Basic health things and the idea that, I mean, again, right? Can I bring up one of your pictures for a second?
Sure. Which one?
I guess any one of these, really, right?
I mean, that one. Yep. That one's an interesting one to talk about.
This one here?
Yeah, because there was a gentleman that I was talking to yesterday. This is another person, not the one we were talking about with the grip. He was talking to me about his shoulder, he was in excruciating pain at night, sleeping at night. It's not as he said, basically it's not as bad as it was, but it was something that he had mentioned to me, and I was talking to him about something differently than that. So, just kind of like asking some questions, doing some different like testing that I have, like some manual muscle testing that I can do. And, just testing for like sensory at certain parts on the body. That's going to give me an indication of potentially what nerve it could be. So based off of that, I was able to see that, he wasn't getting, where I could give him like some kind of a nerve, like a floss, just to kind of move the area, congestion and stuff like that. So that picture right there is actually a really good one, because that's the axillary nerve is in there, and it's in this particular space. And there's also an artery that's in there also. And you can probably see that from there, the posterior circumflex humeral artery and axillary artery, not to throw so much anatomy at people, but like you can see how tight that space is, right?
Yes.
So, putting your arm up, like, especially like we talk about baseball or even overhead athlete in general, like they're putting their arm up, they're going back like that, say they're constantly, pitching, moving and doing like that. So the muscles are going to get, really strong. And so even the muscles can actually get tight and restricted and kind of like, make that compress the nerve, compress the artery and things like that. So, cause pain in this area here, where a lot of people end up pointing to, which can be like it could be other things. It doesn't necessarily have to do that. So based off of my little functional test I did with him, I was able to kind of help him with that, because that's an area you want to get some movement in. I mean, your axillary nerve, what that does is it does abduction, right? So it kind of can help you bring your arm back like this, so you're like here, and then 45 external rotation at about a 45 degree.
Yeah.
So like think about a pitcher, right? You're knocking that out. You're knocking the nerve out to do that. And then now you're running the risk of messing with the blood supply. So the actual blood supply, which will supply that muscle, these two muscles, plus it also does a bunch of couple other muscles like your triceps
Yep.
and your another teres major, which helps you kind of internally rotate. These are like joint centrators and stuff, and they all have different nerves, but this is the blood supply. So it's like just kind of like knowing this and just being able to kind of give somebody like an exercise for that to kind of help, I think is like really impactful, because you don't want to start messing with that stuff.
There's so many things in your shoulder that could go wrong. Like, oh my goodness.
You just want to kind of jump in front of it, like before it gets crazy, and or just be part of like a support team. Like somebody else could be working with this person doing something else, right? They could be working with another professional. It's just, another thing that they could probably do to kind of help themselves, just to get movement into the area, get the blood flow, get the inflammation down, things like that. So it's just it's just a little fun fact right there for you, a little anatomy fun fact.
So there's a baseball player who we brought up a couple of times, and he has not in the last few episodes come up, unfortunately. Although now that we're talking shoulders and we're talking TOS and stuff like that, David Cone.
Oh yeah.
David Cone was a New York Met, Kansas City Royal, ended up on the New York Yankees. And in the 1996 season, I think it was.
I think that's what it said.
96, yeah. He had an aneurysm. Talk us through that. What even is that really? And what's the like? Explain all of David Cone and what happened. David Cone missed the whole year. It was really bad.
Well, his name had come up before, like when I first kind of did a TOS search. Remember when we were talking about Strasbourg and stuff? But they have different, like they have neurogenic TOS, which is more the nerve stuff, and then they have like arterial and venous, which they say isn't really like that common, but they're like really serious. Like supposedly arterials, obviously very serious because you're dealing with the artery and stuff. It said that he had that. So I had looked this up before too, asking what it would be, what artery it was, what aneurysm was from. And a couple of sources will say, like, I don't know if anybody said subclavian, but I think it said like axillary artery. And there are ones that said this posterior humeral circumflex artery here, and that comes off of the axillary artery. So again, that's the one that I'm talking to you about. That's in that little space there.
Yep.
So that was where he supposedly had the aneurysm in. So it just makes you wonder, like, okay, did that artery, was he not getting the blood supply to the area? Were the muscles tight? Were they compressing in the area? Because the way it wraps around, like, it just makes you wonder, like, did that happen because of that too? I mean, I'm not saying that it did, but it just, you see where, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you could understand why you might think that.
Explain exactly. I understand what an aneurysm is, kind of. I know what it can do, and I know if an aneurysm bursts, you're pretty much dead. What exactly is that?
An aneurysm?
Like an aneurysm.
It's like a clot. Like he was getting
right.
like a clot in that area.
Right. It's just,
there.
I mean, that's right. Basically what it's
like
now.
The damage to the
could tightness again, where, there's not enough. I mean, like, is that sort of how that would happen? That the blood is clotting because it's not flowing?
I mean, I don't know if that's what happened, but I know that particular space there that we brought up, has that artery in there, and that was the one that had the problem. So my whole thing would be like wondering, hey, was that area really congested in the beginning? Were you not getting the proper blood flow and neurology to that area? because maybe it was tight to begin with or something like that. That's I don't know if that would be the case or not, but
But it could be.
it just makes you, I don't know, it just makes you wonder, like, and just think, like, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah. Again,
I mean, there could be other factors, playing into it and stuff, but here we're talking about a guy that was a pitcher, right? He was a baseball pitcher.
Yep.
It was on the right side. I mean, he's a right-handed pitcher. He was constantly doing that. I mean, constantly pitching. I mean, what if he had compromised in the beginning already, and then now you're throwing in all that volume, all of that stuff, right?
Yep.
Did you maybe somehow aggravate it? I mean, I almost think you would. I mean, I can't prove it.
Yeah,
but I mean, you see the picture, the
Oh
space.
my
I mean,
God,
it kind of tells a little bit of a tale. I mean,
I
that,
would think so.
if you're not getting good movement through that area, you're actually you're compressing that. You can compress that artery, and you can even compress the actual nerve. So now you're kind of throwing off
It's
your ability to abduct and externally rotate.
When you came and you were down at the wiffle ball field, and all right, I mean, the amount of people that have issues with their shoulder, and again, some people were talking rotator cuff or whatever.
I think
have
that's
you.
a blank. Everybody says
Yeah,
rotator
well,
cuff.
again,
I think that's kind of like what the go-to is.
It's because nobody knows what that looks like underneath their skin, right? We feel the pain here, and it's like, oh no, it's right here. That's my rotator cuff, and it's like, well, that's where you're feeling the pain. That doesn't necessarily mean that's where it's all emanating from, or is the basis for where this actual problem is.
Mm-hmm. I remember my my mentor used to say, like, if somebody ever points to like this part of their shoulder, it's like your worst nightmare, because it could be a couple, there's like, she always says you kind of have a little bit of work to do to kind of figure out, what it could be.
Well, that's why I find you so helpful, because again, I mean, right, we throw the ball and our shoulder is sore, and so it's like, oh, that's got to be my rotator cuff, and it's like, no. But again, you don't know. You wouldn't know that. You would know that, and that's why people need to talk to you.
Well, I don't. I'm not 100% sure about this, because I haven't, like, I don't think. I think when somebody does have like an actual tear, I don't think it's as painful as people would think it is. I think it's other stuff that might be causing the person pain. But I don't want to say, like, I'm like emphatically like, oh my God, that's it, because I would imagine that, sometimes it could be painful for the person. But then there's people that I guess have tears or something, and then they don't feel it, because I think, you think about, as you start to age, the more you go through life and you do things, like, you're going to have something, right? You're going to have some kind of, joint thing or movement. You're not going to get away from not having it.
Yep.
So
the Yankees had a pitcher named Masahiro Tanaka who came over from Japan, and he signed a 7-year contract and did all 7 years, served his purpose and lived up to the contract. But from season 2 on, they said this guy's rotator cuff was hanging on by a string.
Okay.
And at any point, it's going to go. And somehow, Karin, he got through all 7 seasons.
Wow.
And then he eventually went back to Japan, and he still never had the rotator cuff completely tear.
Interesting.
And he's pitched above average all of that time. So I think, to your point, yeah, the pain with, again, this guy's barely hanging on. And he, for the most part, was pretty pain-free.
Yeah. See, so there you go. And I mean, see, that's like, I'd love to work with people that maybe have a little bit of like tightness and pain, and they don't want to get surgery. Like, they've maybe been recommended to, and they want to try, maybe a couple of things first before they do that. And that was a situation that I had yesterday, because the person really doesn't want to get surgery.
Yeah.
So they want to try, they like to try a couple other things. So, based off of some of the functional tests and, some nice exercises, the person did notice some difference.
My dad's had an aneurysm on his neck since I think 1970, and
Really?
he's needed back surgery.
I'm assuming
Probably.
somebody's monitoring that, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh
okay,
yeah. But he's had this thing his whole life, and so both of his parents died on the operating table, bled
Oh.
out.
Oh, that's terrible.
All right, and he's got an
Yeah.
aneurysm on his neck that should be operated on,
And he's like,
and he
no,
now,
right? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
I understand.
that feels like a really high percentage.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make it, and again,
Mhm.
I think for someone who doesn't want to go under the knife, who does
Mhm.
have, and could probably help relieve the stress or pain
Mhm.
through exercise and stretching and some of these other things.
Yeah, I think that would be great. But I think somebody who has like the compromise, like in the artery or like the vein and something, they should be talking to some kind of a vascular person. I think that would be great if they had the ability to be able to do that, to talk to somebody. And then if the person was doing some of the like any kind of movement strategies, obviously, based off of like what the doctor thought and was looking, and just to see, if the person, if it was helping and working, why couldn't they work together?
Right.
I just think that would actually be a really ideal thing. I'd love to
Yeah,
work with a
again,
vascular person or a cardiologist or something.
I think one of the things you and I have been talking about for a while on this podcast and even before and beyond, the idea that, being the weekend warrior, playing softball, wiffle ball, basketball, soccer, whatever you can't get hurt. Like, if you got hurt and you needed to get surgery and you need like a 6 to 8 week rehab, you work. That would be hugely problematic for a lot of my friends.
Mm.
Again, the idea that you could sort of rehab this thing without surgery.
Why not? We'll try it.
I mean, I would say, right? I would at least want to try it if I could avoid,
I would 100%.
being out for 10 weeks or something. Good Lord.
I would definitely try it. I also would. I think there could be other people involved. I'm not saying, oh, just come to me and I'm going to solve everything. No, that's not the case at all. I think it's good to have certain people, involved in this too, like other doctors and things, because you just don't know. I mean, you gotta be careful too with stuff. I mean, you're dealing with like arteries and veins, like in that same area, like especially if we're talking about thoracic outlet syndrome.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have that. So it's just, I think it's good to have somebody that you could even talk to about this too, just to rule out any more serious things.
Well, sure, right. I'm thinking now, if you have an issue, you could be somebody that really potentially could help somebody figure out if they need to go to somebody,
get to the right person,
right? Where maybe, you might see a situation where you're like, you're going to probably want to get surgery on this. That is a real problem, right? Or, you know what? Not major structural damage. You could probably avoid surgery and, right? Or, right? I mean, to your point, I think there's so many different options. But generally speaking, if you go to a surgeon, well, you're having surgery.
Yeah.
That's pretty much their game.
Well, I think that's kind of like what they're looking to do. Because this person yesterday that I was talking to, the surgeon was basically like, said, "Oh, you have a rotator cuff tear. We're going to do a surgery. I have an opening in December." And I guess the person was just like, okay, not really, just did it. And then they went home and then they tell their wife, and their wife's like, "What? You're not doing that. You're not doing that surgery." So it was just kind of funny, and then he was talking to me and I said, "Do you really want to have the surgery?" He's like, "No, I really don't." And I'm like, "Would you be interested in, trying some stuff that I maybe I can try to help you with some of this? Would you be interested in talking to me about it?" And he's like, "Oh my God, yeah." So that's how that kind of started. So I said, "Hey, let's see. I mean, if you're not in pain, why the heck would you get the surgery?"
Right.
And if you had like a little strategy for yourself, like he works out with a trainer too. And so he was noticing when he goes to like lift up, that's when he just kind of felt, and then didn't really have a lot of range of motion to kind of go back and things like that. So just doing a couple of these corrective exercises, I call them corrective exercises, essentially, I guess that's what they are, and did notice an increase in range of motion, just from, working on that and being a little bit more mindful of what you're doing, paying attention. Like there was some things that you were doing that were putting you in that problem. And now it's kind of like, oh, okay. And now you see it, you realize it. So now you can kind of change it. And then you can maybe, you can set a different pattern down, because your body's really going to continue with the same pattern until you give it something different. Because, it doesn't really care if you're in pain or not. It's just going to just keep running the same program. So,
by the way, to your point about your friend working with a trainer, as you know, I have a trainer I work with once a month at work, Christian, cool dude.
Oh,
and I find, I've talked to you about Christian. I talk to Christian about you all the time.
Oh, neat. Okay.
And, it's funny, recently, we were, we're doing this all on camera for the radio station.
Yeah, no, I see you jumping around and stuff.
And it's funny because, at one point in one of the videos, this guy mentioned how well I was doing. I think we were doing squat thrusts, and he commented on how well I was breathing.
Oh, was this recently?
This was like 2 months ago.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice. Oh, good.
And
you
literally, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm like, it's funny. I do a podcast, and one of the things that we've been talking about, I noticed I had a tendency when I'm working out or lifting things or bracing myself for stuff, I hold my breath, which is a terrible way to work out. Now he's more aware of it when I'm working out for him, because you pointed out to me, you and I figured out I'm not breathing. And now, because we've talked about it so much, I'm hyper aware of my breathing, to the point where this guy was like, wow, you're good at breathing. And it's like, well, I wouldn't have been a month ago had I not talked to you. So again, I think there's such a nice benefit of, and I thought that was, again, the fact that he pointed out.
Yeah, that must have made you feel like the cats.
Well, right. It's like, I know
blank.
right. In all the time you and I've spent together and talked about this stuff, right? I want to own my health more. And I want to understand things like that. And again, to sort of be able to communicate between different professionals who are helping me, and then have one sort of notice that I've picked up the slack on something I was doing wrong because of you, like that.
Oh, that's great.
In real time, it's like, oh, yeah, no, this is good. This is really good.
I'm happy to hear that. Well, Joe, you're a quick learner anyways. I mean, anytime we talked about stuff, like, you've picked it up pretty quickly, so, which is good. I think it is. I'm impressed when I see people pick things up pretty quickly. They're usually people that actually are involved in movement or some kind of a sport. I feel like they do. They are kind of picking it up pretty quickly.
Yeah,
they definitely understand.
Yeah, there are people who don't pick it up so quickly, and that's not good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just sometimes myself too. Like, you're like, oh my god, this is weird. Like, especially if it's something different, it's weird. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, I feel like sometimes people have to be kind of open to it, because it's not like it's just a random thing. Like, as crazy as it is, sometimes people think you're going to do the same thing that they were doing that wasn't working. And then if you try to give them something, if you do give sometimes something different, maybe like, oh, I don't want to do this. This is a lot. This is, weird or complicated or something. But so
I like to trust professionals to, you know what I mean? And so again, if someone's showing me something, I'm like, you do it, and then I'll do it. Yeah. Again, I also think part of it is, you're investing your time into doing something or learning something. And it's like, I don't know why you wouldn't totally lock in and so thank you.
I'm happy to hear that.
I try to be a quick learner. I
think
I don't want to waste somebody's time too. Someone showing me something, I'm a teacher myself. I teach at Connecticut School of Broadcasting. We don't have like books
Mm-hmm.
It's I show them how to do something, and then I'm like, now you do it, and then
Yep.
they spend their time, because again,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of that is just repetition, right? It's like, hey, the more you do it, the more time you spend on this, the better you're going to get.
It
I
is.
always tell people, if you're spending a lot of time on something, more and more time, and you're getting worse at it, it's not for you.
Well, either that or maybe you're just having a little bit of a tough time understanding it, and then somebody can kind of help you with it. So that's never a problem. Like, I feel like if somebody really wants to learn something, then I'm very patient about showing them stuff, because I know how complicated stuff can be.
Oh,
Not so
sure.
much just with movement stuff, but just like even learning something in general, and then having somebody like being snotty to you or being rude to you, you know what I mean? Like, that's the worst. Like, you can actually have somebody that has so much potential and just maybe have a little bit of a hard time understanding something, and then you just like snub them off like they're dumb or something. Like, that's how is that person going to have the potential to learn and excel if so like I just don't like that. I've had that done to me before.
Yep.
So, that is definitely something that I know that I would never do to somebody, because I like I said, I've had it done to me, so I don't particularly appreciate it. So I just think everybody has the potential to do great things. It's just a matter of, like, what are you looking for in your life? Like, do you want that or not? Like, if you don't want it, you don't, maybe you won't be good at it.
Kim Kardashian studied for the California bar.
Really?
She took the test, and for the 6th time, she has failed it.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just not your thing.
It's like my father used to say that to me before. He used to say that to me. Some people aren't meant to be doctors. I remember
Yeah.
saying that to him one time. Uh, about another family member that actually ended up doing very well based off of he thought the person wasn't going to be able to understand the material and not be successful at it.
Oh.
And I didn't like that. He was kind of talking crap. So I remember him saying to me, "Not everybody meant to be doctors." And I'm like, I think people are meant to be whatever they want to be. I said, if somebody wants to, I told him myself, I feel like I want to be an astronaut tomorrow. I'll be an astronaut tomorrow. And he's like, you know what? He goes, "You're a dreamer." That's what he said to me. And I'm like, I'm not a dreamer. I'm a realist. And I said, and I honestly believe that this person is going to be successful at it. And they were. They were, because they put the effort in. Did they struggle? Oh my God, they struggled a lot. But they really did get the goal. They definitely did it. And I was like super proud of the person. And he was too. He was too.
Well, sure. I
Yeah.
think when look, I don't know your father, obviously.
No, I love my father. I'm not trying to talk crap
No,
about
I
but
know
that
you're
reminded
not.
me of when you said that. Yeah.
I would think, again, when your dad says you're being a dreamer, I mean, I think he recognizes himself as a realist, right? And if he's telling that family member, I don't think that's for you, I don't think that's coming from a mean place, right? That's coming from you're probably not going to be good at that, and I don't want to see you waste your time and fail and be disappointed.
Yeah, but that person's like kicking.
But then I wonder, is there almost that, like, I'm going to show him, how dare you? And then was your father possibly doing the reverse psychology?
It's funny you said that, because people have asked me that before.
Boy, you're never going to be good at that.
No, he's not doing that.
No, he wasn't not a reverse psychology guy.
No, and I don't think so. He's just like, tell you like it is, you would love my father. Was so funny. Everybody thought he was hilarious, because he is. He was hilarious. But and we used to work together in the produce business, and that was one of our days. He was like, was sticking up for if it was a family member, I was sticking up for the person. And he was just like, meh. I'm like, you'll see. And sure enough, like, I'm telling you, the person's knocking it out of the park now.
That said, I do think, and I feel like we've only talked about this a handful of times on the show, but again, when we're talking about physical and the breathing and all the different aspects of health, I think having a support staff behind you is so important, to be surrounded by people who believe in you people who care about you.
I agree.
And I think it's sad. And I see this a lot. And one of the things I've stressed to my 4 children over the last 20 years now is don't chase people.
Yep.
The people that
Good advice.
want to be in your life, that are always around you, you know, sometimes we're like, oh, I wish I was friends with that person. And it's like you're ignoring this person who's always by your side, always has your back, and you're bitching you don't have any friends. And it's like, what about that person that's always there for you?
Yep.
That kind of stuff drives me batty. And again, like my son is 10 years old and he's got a friend who's an adorable 10-year-old girl. And I'm only going to say this because we're friends with her mom and dad. She's very bossy. She's also, like you, a martial artist. So at 10, she could whoop my son's ass. And, you know, she gets a little physical at times because, you know, as she told me, sometimes he needs an attitude adjustment.
Oh, wow. She actually told you that?
She drags his ass all over the place. And he's always like, she's so bossy. And I go, but let me ask you something. Does that kid always have your best intentions in mind? When she drags your ass off the couch, tells you to put the video games away, and she takes you to do something, is it fun? Yeah. She's doing that for you. You wouldn't do that on your own. Those are the kind of people you want in your life. Sometimes you're like, oh my God, this person's a little much for me.
Like family.
But you know what?
Yeah.
You need those people in your life. And so, again, I say this too sometimes, you know, maybe the people who you're closest to or who are there for you aren't the people you want it to be. You know, again, in your mind, it's maybe it's somebody that you admire or somebody you wish you were spending time with, but pay attention to who's actually around you and who's actually there for you, because I'll tell you what, when shit hits the fan, you need those people in your life.
I agree.
And I think, you know, when you're trying to accomplish things, whether it be a career, whether it be your own health, whatever it might be, having people in your orbit who, whether you just need a shoulder to cry on, some advice, or, I mean, physically you need some help, having people who can get your back emotionally and physically and in all aspects, I think that is vitally important to success.
I 100% agree with you on that. That could definitely, you know, not having that could sabotage some other good things that you're doing. So
the other thing I think people should be very careful of, to your point, you mentioned sabotage, is self-sabotage.
Yeah, I was just going to say that self-sabotage is
pretty, you know, again,
pretty real thing too.
As a person who, like you, teaches, one of the things I always tell my students, and my students range from 17 years old to 75, is my oldest student I've ever had.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most of the people who I teach are people who are looking to get into broadcast media. On 4 different occasions, I've had to teach an established media personality as their teacher, which is weird, right?
Sure. Yeah, 'cause that could go either way.
All of those situations, it was the person had a long layoff from the actual radio business and was coming in just for a refresher on the basics. And, you know, in all of those 4 situations, they were all very awkward. And in 2 of the cases, I knew the person really, really well. And I was like, I don't really want to tell you what to do. And I'll never forget the first of this group of people. And again, this is a guy I knew really, really well and thought a lot of when he was on the radio. He was like, I'm here like everybody else, and I want you to critique me like I've never done this before. I want like the full-on experience from you. And I mean, kudos to him.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
like,
Because that can't be easy
oh,
sometimes to
sure.
do.
And
You
again,
know.
it was like super awkward for me because it was somebody who, even at the time, in the industry, I thought was more accomplished than I was.
Mm,
And it's like, I almost feel stupid trying to tell you what to do. But
sure, I get that. I understand
here's
that.
the other
Yep.
point. You're a trainer. You need a trainer,
Mm-hmm.
right? Doctors need doctors,
Oh
and
yeah.
lawyers hire lawyers, right? So
I talk this stuff
just
over with
because you're
people.
in the field with you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like I really
definitely.
do think there's so much to that.
Oh, there is, and I talk about this stuff to people because it's good to talk about it. Especially with somebody who has more, that's been doing it for a long time or is a doctor. So
You can learn a
I'm
lot.
actually doing that. Yeah, I'm doing that. I'm bringing bringing stuff to the table that that I'm thinking about that I know, and then I'm like, okay, let's talk about this together. Do you think that this person should maybe go and get some different imaging?
Mm-hmm.
Because I have this lady that I'm kind of working with, and I'm almost wondering if she needs to be getting some different type of imaging. So it's like I'm talking to somebody that's a doctor about this. Now I'm not mentioning the person's name, but just like putting the facts down on the table because, I don't know everything. I never pretend I do. You have to, I think it's important to talk to people about this, or even people that are in your, same scope too. You can talk about this stuff with trainers. Like I had mentioned to you that my friend Ray, who's been a trainer for 25 years and he's in New York, and we're going to have him come on one night. So him and I talk about stuff. We discuss stuff. So I think it's great to have that relationship with people. It's the power of partnerships.
I was just telling a story the other day to a buddy of mine who, like me, is really good at audio editing, and I literally teach audio editing classes. And I started working 2 years ago at this radio station, and the guy who's in charge of audio production um said, "Hey, come over here. I'll show you this program."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Oh, okay." And I went and I pulled up a
Yeah.
chair next to him, and he showed me this program like I had not been working with it for 25 straight years.
Oh.
And I played like I had never seen it before. And he gave me he gave me his whole thing, and I obviously asked questions, good questions, because I really know this thing
Mm-hmm.
inside and out.
Okay.
And he was pleasantly surprised, like, "Oh wow, you really getting this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm," and I didn't. And listen, right? It's why didn't I say anything? Because eventually, maybe 2 or 3 days later, this guy comes up to me and he goes, "Oh my God," he goes, "I feel so stupid. I did not realize that you teach that program." And I said, "Dude, you know what? When you were like, 'Hey, let me show you,' I thought to myself, you know what? The interesting thing about this audio program, Karen, is there's about 8 different ways to
Of
do
doing it. Yeah. So
everything."
that's good
And
though.
I thought to
Open-minded.
myself, you know what? If this guy can show me one thing that I don't already know, or if he's got a way to do something that's different, I'll learn something.
That's great to have. That's a good attitude to have. That's really
Right.
good, actually.
He set aside some time thinking he needed to teach me that program.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's like, okay, what do you got? I'm always, I think that's the other super important thing is, look, I've been in my craft for 30 years now.
Yeah.
I don't know everything. And, I've been told I'm very good at what I do. The word legends come up a time or two, not my words. I don't pretend like I can't get better. I can't learn more. And, I think that's why I've been able to succeed for as long, because I'm open. That's the other thing.
And people don't mind talking to you either. They're
Part
not
of
gonna,
part of my job is about every 5 weeks, I get to talk to my bosses about my on-air performance, and they will literally critique the things I have said on the radio.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Now,
Mm.
as a younger person, oh my God.
Yeah, you would have like flipped out, right?
Ow! Everything they said, I was, well, here's, right, and I'm arguing and I'm fighting and I'm defending myself. And it's funny, oh God, 2009, I had a boss who was anal retentive, and he was a real,
Mm-hmm.
and we're sitting there and we're listening to my show, and this guy was, I mean, nitpicking
Everything, huh? Yeah. So
oh
yeah. Yeah. It sucks.
and it was the first time he and I had been in this atmosphere where he's
Mhm.
going over my, and I tried not to make it too obvious that I was hating every second of it. And
Mm.
you know what he said to me, and this changed my attitude on it. He said, "I can tell you're getting pissed." And I went, "No, why do you say that?" And he goes, I want you to understand something. I think you are so good on the
Mhm.
radio right now. You are so good that I need to nitpick you. There's very little that needs adjusting,
Mm.
but there is a little bit. And so we're tightening up the nuts here. There's not any major work that needs to be done. You're very good,
Okay. I bet
but
you.
a little
Yeah.
tweak here, a little tweak there, nothing too crazy. That's why he was nitpicking.
Gotcha. So that must have just
And I
chilled you out
thought,
a little
oh
bit
my
too.
God, I'm so good. This guy's like really digging deep to like critique me. And you know what? Not for nothing. At the end of the day, this is all meant
To
to
get
make
you
me
better.
better.
Yeah. So as he said
sign
that,
me up.
yeah,
You know,
it's just, it was probably just the presentation and then the fact that he said that, like, because I could see myself getting like that, and then somebody saying that to me, and then that would just be like, oh wow, like then you feel
imagine
like a
once a
jerk,
month,
right? Yeah.
once a month, you go into your boss's office and they tell you everything they think you did that sucked. It is the weirdest. I don't know that there's any other industry where that's like a practice that
Mm.
regularly happens. But again, rather than take this thing that could be a negative,
Yep.
right? It's like, oh, okay. I mean, I have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I may as well get something out of it
Yep.
and learn, because I guess to my major point here, you don't know everything, and you're never going to know
Yeah.
everything. And if you can't be open to new thoughts or ideas or methods or whatever, then what are you doing?
No, I totally agree with you, and I feel like the more stuff I start to learn, the more I'm like, Jesus, I don't know anything.
You know what? I'll tell you, there's
It's
been
like,
days where I
don't
think
know
to
nothing.
myself, boy, these guys got me convinced I don't know nothing. So I totally feel you on that. I gotta tell you, I love talking to you, and this stuff is so fascinating. I cannot encourage people enough, and I'll tell you, I think especially if you're a coach,
Mm.
bring this person in and let her talk to your players, because I guarantee there's some people that could use this kind of help.
Or
Tell
just
them,
yeah, or just talk to the. I mean, I'd love to just have a conversation with the coach. I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't. We don't have to talk to the players right away. Just sit down and have a conversation. Just kind of like, I mean, how me and you did that day.
Yep.
I would encourage that for people if they have any questions or they just want to talk about this stuff or any of the episodes that they've listened to and they're like, oh wow, I'd like to learn more about that, or maybe that's me, or I know somebody that has that. So, I'm open to talking about it. I actually love talking about it, and just see what we could do.
You have a great intake form on your website. Tell people where to find it and sort of walk them through the accessing of it.
Oh, okay. The couple of little questions that I have on there.
Yep.
Well, you'd go on the website. It's at revoltandmove.com/get-started. And there's like a few questions. There's probably about 5 questions just asking you what have you done what have you done for this problem? Like from a scale from 1 to 10. Can't remember the questions off the top of my head. Isn't that terrible?
No, it's
yeah,
not
just
terrible.
a couple of
It's
questions
obviously
like,
basic
what's your
information.
biggest, what's your biggest
Okay.
problem? Things like that. So that's just like a little talking point, like just to get back to somebody if they wanted me to give them a call or things like that. But the intake that I have, if somebody wants to actually book an appointment with me, there's more questions, is more detailed information. So the more information that I have, it's a little history. It's a history. Obviously, you take a history. Any trainer or person is gonna take a history of someone. So it's questions. It's information.
I would check it out, revoltandmove.com/get-started. I highly recommend it. Now, normally, in this part of the show, we have a guest, and we don't have a guest tonight. Instead, I mentioned this video earlier, and it's a testimonial. It's some different people who have had the opportunity to work with Karin. And I thought we could run that as the end of the show. What do you think of that?
That sounds great. Which one did you want to do? Did you want to do Steve or the ladies, both of them?
We'll give you Steve first, because you referenced Steve earlier, I believe.
Yeah,
he's the beginning.
Yeah, that's a short. No, actually, no, I wasn't talking. I wasn't talking about him. He wasn't one of the guys I was talking about. But Steve is somebody who plays golf, and he has mentioned to me before that he plays hockey. He used to play hockey. I don't know if he's still doing it, but very active guy. He's did triathlons and stuff like that. So nice person. I haven't seen him in a while, but this is a testimonial from him,
She showed me new stuff that I had never heard about or seen before, and opened my eyes to things that I was just previously unaware of. I just think she's really fun to work with. She, is able to explain things that are pretty complicated, but in a way that you're able to understand it.
I tell you, I think that is the other big thing. We've talked about that really in doing a podcast, right? Is we don't want to get too medical term, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to be too technical, because that gets confusing. But again, you see pictures like this or this, and it's like, holy smokes, there is so much going on underneath the skin. So I think you really do a nice job of sort of explaining, what is what. And I, to his point, I appreciate that.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. I mean, I think that's part of it too, is being able to try to understand it like that, so I can make it make sense.
Make it make sense.
Yeah, I mean, or just
ain't that the truth?
I mean,
all right.
Yeah. So,
well, another episode in the books.
Oh, what about the other one?
Oh, we're gonna
like
literally end the show, and that's gonna take us out.
Okay, because that one I really want to just kind of touch base on that quickly. These are people that really actually, like, they had some congestion, and we went over the breathing stuff, so it was kind of like working both the diaphragm and just kind of like giving some different strategies that they can do. Obviously no drugs or medication or anything like that, just movement stuff to kind of get the sinuses going too. So that's just kind of some footage on that, in case anybody watches it and be like, what is this about?
I watched it earlier, and I said to Karin, I go, oh my God, this video is great. I go, we're gonna have to end the show by playing this tonight. So she said, yeah, that's a good idea. So you could check this out. We will see you not next Tuesday night. Is next week. We're going to do it on Monday night. Am I right?
I believe so.
Yeah. Next week, little programming change. We're going to be on Monday night at 6:00. So that is going down. Make sure you tune into that. For Karin Ravalese, I am Joe Aguirre. Thank you so much for watching. And again, check out this great testimonial, which Karin just set up for us. Have a good night.
Thanks, Joe.
If I didn't work with Karin, I never even would have known how much I was struggling.
Even after that first session, that first night, I felt more energized when I woke up the next morning. She also had taught me some techniques to clear my sinuses, because I tend to wake up with congestion and a dry cough, not feeling as rested. So that was really helpful already the first day.
I can now get out of a chair, or when I've been in one position too long, those are times where I would usually have back spasms. By focusing on breathing in and kind of holding that strength of my body while I get up, I'm avoiding that.
She had a solution that no one had ever even discussed with me before, that it could have been my diaphragm.
We have been in touch since July, and over the past 6 months, she actually made a big difference in my life. She taught me how to breathe better, how to breathe properly.
It was very nice for her to show me some techniques and exercises that allow me to strengthen my diaphragm. And, when I went to see her, was actually very congested that day. So it was nice to see the instant result.
Working with Karin is a no-brainer. Do it. You're going to feel better. Your anxiety is going to be reduced. Your body's going to feel better. Just don't even question it. Do it.
So if you are thinking about working with Karin, someone who is compassionate, a wonderful human being, a great teacher, and someone that's really going to make sure that you are able to take control of your own life again, I highly recommend working with Karin.